And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jerzee Joe. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Has the ungodly hot weather hit you yet? Or is it still?
No, it's actually quite lovely today, but it's supposed to be up in the 90s as the week progresses.
Yeah, we're supposed to hit 90 record highs on and humidity on
Yeah,
Friday. So
gross.
uh, that's what summer in the Northeast is all about.
It was
Anyway,
actually chilly this morning when I walked the dog.
so get your lawn mowed while the weather's nice.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't need to be mowed.
All right. All right. You want to hear what we're going to try to talk about today?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
Well, more than I can ever hope to get in. I've got stuff. First of all, I had to pare down. I had three or four more things I wanted to talk about, couldn't fit them in. And then I doubt we're going to get to everything on the list. But anyway, so today's July 22nd. And the focus is news and perspective you won't hear on TV. And I want to stress that I've got a couple of friends. I go to the gym 5, 6 days a week, and I got some conservative friends, and we sit and we talk. And I said, "You hear about this?" And then he said, "No, I didn't hear it." And did you hear about? No, I didn't hear. And I'm saying, these are huge stories that the press isn't covering. And I know I ask you sometime from time to time, have you
Yeah.
heard about this? So I want to stress as we go through this, these are really big stories that people all over the country should have heard about. And the fact that you haven't heard about them, I find it scary. And I don't know if anybody else listening finds it scary that you don't hear about. Now, if you listen to some, I mean, there are talk shows, there's Mark Levin at night and there's regional people. But the fact that you don't hear about these stories that I think you should be hearing about, I find not only scary, I find it also sad. And I shake my head. So I urge you to broaden your sources and don't rely on the network news, because unless you listen to a show like this one or some of the others, you're never going to hear about these things. And I think you should. Um, let's start with the stupidest thing I've heard all week. We'll play a clip of a United States Congresswoman demanding that Congress authorize the creation of a plaque honoring those police officers she claims died defending the Capitol building on January 6th of 2021. Now, just offhand, do you remember how many Capitol police officers died during the January 6th riots at the
I
Capitol?
think two, I believe.
No, no. The answer is zero.
Really,
And
I could have sworn that at least one person
n-
died as a result
no,
of
no,
injury.
not as a result. And we'll go through that in detail.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Well, that's what the press, you hear on the press.
that's what you heard in the press, and we're going to tell you why when we get to the story. The answer is zero, but this congresswoman doesn't know that no Capitol police officers died on January 6th or as a result of any injuries they sustained. So here she is on the floor of the Congress saying we need to honor these men who gave their lives. Nobody gave their lives. All right. Another one. This was a big story here. Did you hear about? Now, I may have copied you on an email, but did you hear on your news about the Customs and Border Patrol agent that was shot in the face by two illegal immigrants Saturday night in New York City?
Well, I heard it from you, but I did not hear it on the news.
Okay, and we're going to go into detail about these two illegal immigrants. But don't you think if a off-duty Customs and Border Patrol agent by the way, they didn't know he was a Customs and Border Patrol agent. They tried to rob him, of course, and he was armed and he shot back. But don't you think that should be national news?
Absolutely.
And the fact that you and none of my friends heard about it, I think is disgraceful.
Yeah.
All right. And another one, uh, and I know again you may have seen it from me, but did your local news broadcast a story about the woman in California who faked her own kidnapping by alleged ICE agents?
Yes, that one I did hear.
On
Oh, but
did
no, but you're right. Maybe I heard it from you and not on the
Yeah,
news.
because none of my friends heard about it.
Yeah.
And we'll go into that. A woman from Mexico staged her own fake kidnapping, and by the way, the day she claimed she was kidnapped, her relatives that made the California news, and she was my mother was kidnapped, and my sister-in-law was no, she wasn't kidnapped, and we'll go into details. Who's our favorite senator?
Kennedy out of Louisiana.
John Kennedy. We have a clip of him. Remember this? The most recent bill that was signed on, it took some of it defunded federal funding for NPR and PBS,
Hmm.
and he explains why he thinks that was the right thing to do. Remember we played some stuff from Nick Fridas from Virginia a couple of months ago.
Yep.
Well, we have another one, and he's going to talk about a famous experiment called Universe 25 that you're probably too young to remember, and I'll give you some background on the experiment before we talk to it. Um, and John Stossel has an interesting piece. We won't be able to play all of it, But at one time, Europe and in the United States, the European Union, which is all those where they were running neck and neck with us in terms of output, industrial output and production, and they've fallen so far behind. So he goes into an analysis of what's happened to Europe and why are they falling behind as an economic power. Time permitting, we'll play a clip of Ronald Reagan describing how Democrats always react to any cost-cutting efforts by Republicans. And our taxpayer relief shot this week comes to us from Washington State, where a woman at 2 o'clock in the morning shoots and kills a man trying to break into her home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, all right. Oh, and I forgot our quote of the week is from economist Friedrich von Hayek. He lived from 1899 to 1992, famous economist. And here's his quote. It's a really short one. He said, "If socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists."
Exactly. That is very true.
Again, if socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists. All
So
right.
true.
Now, I'm going to play this clip of Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro demanding that the House of Representatives authorize and create. Now, only one person died on January 6th in the Capitol building, and that was an unarmed woman by the name of Ashley Babbitt. She was a U.S. Air Force veteran. She was unarmed. One of the Capitol police officers took a shot at somebody, missed the person he was shooting at, and fatally wounded Ashley Babbitt. She's the one and only person who died. Now, there's another police officer named Brian Sicknick. He died the next day, but the coroner's report has he said he died of a stroke. It says natural causes on his death
Oh,
certificate.
interesting.
Natural causes. Brian Sicknick died on January 7th of natural causes resulting from a stroke, not from
Wow.
a head injury. Now, in the following 2 or 3 weeks, two other officers committed suicide, but not a single police officer died either on January 6th or from any injuries received on January 6th. Brian Sicknick, again, from a stroke, and then two other officers died of suicide in the following weeks. But here she is apparently either oblivious to that documented fact, and I'm going to have to reset this. Here we go. All right.
Want to recognize, maybe the speaker doesn't want to recognize, the president doesn't recognize that January 6th existed. And these men and women, they gave their lives. And the rest of them who didn't.
She said they gave their lives. No, Congresswoman DeLauro, nobody on the police force gave their lives.
Saved our lives. And why we can't internalize that in some way and put up a plaque that does some honor. Honestly, we bring dishonor on ourselves for not wanting to do this in their name. But my God, who are we? It is a plaque that says, thank you. Thank you for your service. My God, we say that to every person who comes in the room with a hat that said they serve. Thank you for their service. And yet we're not willing to say thank you for the men and women who are out there every day for.
Now, I'm going to cut that short, but don't you think a congresswoman should know
Yes, she
that,
should
that
have known.
now I can forgive you because, it's not your job to know these things. You don't live and work in the Capitol building in the Washington, D.C., but this woman's been in the House of Representatives for decades.
Yep.
She should know that no, and if she doesn't know, what the hell is she doing
Mhm.
representing the people of her district?
Yep.
So do you think that qualifies as the stupidest
Yeah.
heard a week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
She should know.
she should know. All right. Let me go to my next one here. Let's see, I just lost my place. All right. I'm not going to play the clip. So here's the scenario. In New York City, Saturday night, an off-duty, and by the way, you say, what's a Customs and Border Protection officer? If you ever watch these shows like Contraband Seized at the
Yeah.
Border, at all the international airports, Newark, JFK, you've
Yep.
got Customs and Border Protection in the airport, checking
Yep.
people's luggage as they come in, people smuggling drugs into the country. So he apparently worked at one of the major airports, and it was a Saturday night, it was a nice night, and he
Mhm.
was sitting in a park up near the George Washington Bridge with his girlfriend about 11 o'clock at night. Two guys come up on a scooter One jumps off, runs up to him, puts a gun, says, "Give me your wallet," and blah blah. Anyway, he doesn't know this guy's, and so the Border Patrol aide pulls out his gun, and they exchange gunfire. The Border Patrol agent gets hit in the face and the arm, but he returns fire, wounding the guy with the gun twice. His they he, the wounded thug jumps back on the moped, and his buddy drives into the nearest hospital, literally dumps him in the street outside the emergency room entrance, and takes off. Now, of course, the police came and arrested him because the doctors reported we have a guy here with gunshots. And then the police arrested him and then found his buddy. Let me just tell you who they are. Christian Abar Barrara and Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez are undocumented immigrants from the Dominican Republic. Barrara had been arrested, ready for this, 8
Wow.
times between March and April of last year for
Well, that's our first problem right there.
grand larcenies and robberies. Officials had previously announced the arrest of 21-year-old Nunez, who they say was in the country legally and had a history of violence in recent months. Now, why were these people not in the custody of ICE? Well, New York City is a sanctuary city, and a couple of years ago, the people of New York passed some amendment to the city charter, making it illegal for the police to advise ICE if they have an undocumented immigrant in custody or have arrested him. So trust me, the police would have loved to say, called ICE and say, "Hey, we got this guy, we've arrested him 8 times." But the police are legally, New York City police are legally prohibited from calling ICE when they have a violent illegal immigrant in custody. But can you imagine this one guy? Let me repeat this. He was arrested 8 times between March and April. That's less than 60 days. 8 arrests, 8 felony arrests
Like
in
one a
under
week.
60. Right.
One a week.
One a week. And so, by the way, why the hell was this guy even out on probation, on parole?
Yeah,
Why?
if these are
Why?
felonies, like why, like the first one.
Well, by the way, if you're out on parole, the judge gave you bond, and you
Mhm.
commit a second felony while you're out on bond awaiting trial, shouldn't that have already
Exactly.
voided?
Absolutely. So
But again,
that's the first problem, is that he should have been in jail
right.
by at least his second arrest.
Right. Following the second arrest, he should have been in jail. So anyway, and so that's one problem with the New York City judicial system. Remember, we talk about prosecutors and judges. Well, hey, if you're out on bond awaiting trial and you commit a second felony, you shouldn't be out on bond anymore. And by the way, the other guy was also he apparently had a warrant out for his arrest up in Massachusetts for armed robbery. But again, New York City is prohibited. New York City police are prohibited from notifying ICE when they have an illegal immigrant in their custody. So,
And the
again,
reason why he committed 8 felonies is because there was zero repercussions for his
zero
actions.
repercussion. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Book me. Take my picture. I'll be out in the morning, which is what happens. There is absolutely no disincentive to not commit illegal. And those were only the 8 he was arrested for. How many more may he have committed that he wasn't caught? So, and I think that story should have been national news.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it wasn't. Unless you live and watch New York City TV, you didn't hear about it. Now, let's go on to this other one. Now, a woman from Mexico who was in the U.S. illegally uh, a week ago, 10 days ago, she staged her own fake kidnapping by what she alleged were ICE agents. And then her family gets on, her attorney. This is on, they're holding press conferences, how cruel, and this is not fair, this is not justice. And anyway, and it turns out the whole thing was a fraud. Now, the initial claim of her being kidnapped off the street by ICE agents was big news in California. This story wasn't. Well, this story got local coverage, but it didn't make national coverage. Here we go.
Now at 4, a South LA woman accused of staging a fake immigration kidnapping is now facing federal criminal charges. Good afternoon. This is the KTLA 5 News at 4. I'm John Fenolio. She allegedly claimed she was being held in a facility near the border, but the Department of Homeland Security says they found her at a mall in Bakersfield. KTLA's Sarah Welch joins us from South LA with the story. Sarah.
Hey, John, good afternoon. The Department of Homeland Security says Julie Calderon made this whole story up, that it was a hoax, that she blamed federal agents while stoking fear in the community. Back on June.
So free Julie now. This is the whole big thing. These are street protests. Hundreds of people with signs, free Julie now. That's how effective the hoax was.
30th, family and friends of Julie Calderon claim she was kidnapped in this Jack in the Box parking lot off Alameda in South LA by federal agents or people working with them.
Ununiformed men in unmarked cars kidnapped Julie.
But the U.S. Attorney's Office says that was a lie. In its criminal complaint, they say these are photos of Calderon, a citizen of Mexico, on June 25th, parking her Toyota in the fast food parking lot, getting out and then walking across the street to get into another vehicle at this gas station and later driving away. Days went by and the family set up a GoFundMe to help find her, and they also filed a missing persons case with LAPD.
She was taken straight from here to the border and pressured to sign self-deportation paperwork.
Calderon claims she used another person's cell phone to say she was taken to a warehouse at an unknown location. But federal investigators say that was also a lie. And when we asked LAPD, all they would tell us is that they had closed the missing persons investigation. Federal investigators say Calderon was never in federal custody. And on July 4th, they located her with this woman at a parking lot in Bakersfield. Investigators say she stuck to her story. She'd been kidnapped. And these are photos investigators say Calderon created to make it appear as if she was in custody and being mistreated. But the U.S. Attorney's Office says she orchestrated the phony kidnapping to generate public sympathy and solicit donations. Now, the U.S. Attorney's Office released this statement saying dangerous rhetoric that ICE agents are kidnapping illegal immigrants is being recklessly peddled by politicians and echoed in the media to inflame the public and discredit our courageous federal agents. He went on to say, in terms of this case, all those involved will face the full consequences of their conduct under federal law. Now, Calderon has lived in LA for more than 20 years. She's charged with conspiracy and making false statements to federal agents. So far, no one else has been charged in this case, but the U.S. Attorney's Office says this case is ongoing. We did reach out to Calderon's family and the family attorney, but we haven't heard back yet.
So the question is, do you think you should have heard about that story?
Yeah, I think I should have.
Okay. And I think all my friends should have heard about it too.
Yeah.
But none of them did. And again, I find that both sad and scary that how the media is filled. Again, now if you live in LA, you heard the story. But if you didn't live in LA, you didn't hear, it didn't make, I guarantee you it didn't make the New York City news anywhere. Guarantee it didn't. So, yeah, I just find that scary that how the news is, how you're being spoon-fed the news. You only hear the news they want you to hear.
Yep.
Let's go to our favorite senator, John Kennedy. And again, in this most recent legislation, they took out funding for NPR and PBS, which is National Public Radio and PBS, Sesame Street. And by the way, those two entities get less than 10% of their funding from the federal government. They're more than 90%, through donations and endowments and whatnot. So it's not like without government funding, they're going to cease to exist. It was so. But here's Senator John. So we're not talking about those two stations disappearing, not by a long shot. But here's Senator John Kennedy talking about how he views whether or not the government should be funding PBS and NPR. Here we go.
$14.5 billion over time to give to people at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and NPR and NPS to participate in opinion journalism, which they're entitled to do. But they can't do it on the taxpayer dime. They're doing it on the taxpayer dime, but they shouldn't be able to. I would also point out, Mr. President, that the folks at PBS and NPR are
And he's talking to the president of the Senate, not the president of the United States.
doing pretty well for themselves. NPR just bought a $201 million office space just up the road from
Yeah, they're not hurting. They bought a $201 million office building.
the Capitol. $200 million. It came from the American taxpayer, so they could publish this stuff. NPR pays its hosts as much as $532,000 a year, taxpayer money. They pay it. It pays its chief diversity officer about $320,000 a year. You know what? Despite all of this money that the American taxpayer are giving to these left of center entities, their viewership has declined because people don't need them anymore. So why are we giving them money? I've introduced legislation to not to eliminate Corporation for Public Broadcasting, not to eliminate the public broadcasting service, and not to eliminate the National Public Radio. They can go exist on their own if they want to, but I do want to defund them. We're running a $36 trillion in debt. This is disgraceful in 2025. It's disgraceful whether it is left of center opinion journalism or right of center opinion journalism. It is disgraceful for the American people to have to fund this rot. Doesn't mean the rot doesn't have a right to exist, but they don't have a right to taxpayer money.
And by the way, and that piece of legislation did in fact pass. And by the way, on the topic of that, you heard about the Late Show with Stephen Colbert getting canceled.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, by the way, everybody is saying, "Oh, that CBS caved. Trump pressured him to do that because Colbert was No, do you know that the Late Show Stephen Colbert was losing $40 million a year?
Yeah, advertising dollars. But a net loss despite the advertising. They were losing 40, but most people had no idea. Although it's the top rated show, it must be minting money, yet CBS can't. No, they were losing. But it's a 1 hour show, and if you take out commercials in a 1 hour show, you've got 40 minutes of content, right? Yep.
He was getting paid $20 million a year for the 40, and he had a staff of 200 people to produce 40 minutes of nightly content.
Yeah.
And you tell and all the liberal websites, and the show was canceled because Trump pressured CBS to do it. It had nothing to do with it. And you tell them the show was losing $40 million a year. Oh, you're lying. You got that from Fox News. No, the Colbert Show was losing $40 million a year.
Well, going back to the NPR and PBS, they're not for profit, and other organizations such as United Way or ASPCA or any not for profit, no executive should be making $500,000 for.
Well, that's not that's a host. That's just one of the hosts of the show host. That's just one of the hosts of their shows.
Yeah, they shouldn't. Yeah, whether you're the host or the executive, you should not be making $500,000 for a nonprofit. If you work for a nonprofit, it's because you're passionate about what that nonprofit stands for.
Yes.
People who work for nonprofits do it for the passion, not for the money. Right. So the executive should not be making six figures. Now, Stephen Colbert, I mean, that's a lot of money.
$20 million a year.
Yeah, for a 44-minute show.
Right, 5 nights a week. Right, and he doesn't. He gets like 4 weeks vacation. Of course, you get the Christmas holidays, the New Year's holidays. So he only works about like 45 weeks of the year. Anyway, but no, Stephen Colbert was canceled because the show was losing a ton of money, not because Trump pressured CBS to do anything.
And I'm sure people like Jimmy Fallon and who was the other guy? What's the other?
Jimmy Kimmel.
I mean, they're probably in similar situations.
But let me give you but no. Do you know who Greg Gutfeld is?
No, I don't think so.
Well, he's a guy on Fox News, and he's got his own show now, and it's called Gutfeld. And he's got he's kind of like a John, he's got kind of a sarcastic, so he's got a nightly show on Fox News. His nightly show draws almost 1 million more viewers a night than the Colbert Show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a 1 hour show. Do you know how big Greg Gutfeld's staff is for his 1 hour show?
Probably at least half what Colbert has.
How about 8 people?
Oh, wow.
So he does the same 1 hour show every night. He's drawing 1 million more viewers than Colbert, and Colbert has a staff of 200. He has a staff of 8 people. How's that? How's that?
Yeah, I
8
mean,
people.
you can't though. I agree on both accounts, but you also can't compare, NPR and PBS to a for-profit like a CBS where Colbert works.
Right. Yeah, and you can't compare the two, but still, Senator Kennedy, I think, has the exact right thing.
Absolutely.
And by the way, they make money. If you buy a Big Bird doll or any of the Muppets,
Yeah.
they're getting license royalty fees.
Oh, absolutely.
So, all the Big Bird toys and, the stuffed animals.
And I deserve children grow up on that stuff, and that's where they learn their colors and their counting and their ABCs and, good social skills before they go to kindergarten.
Right, but they have all these revenue streams. All the licensing and merchandising fees. I mean, there's Count Chocula or whatever it is, or all these all these different figures you can buy. Any of the Sesame Street, the Grouch, the guy that lives in the grocery in the garbage can.
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. You can buy all those toys, and every time you buy one of those toys, PBS is getting a royalty on that toy. Yeah. So trust me, they don't need taxpayer dollars. All right, how much time we got?
Oh, you have about 7 minutes.
All right, let's play real quick. I'm only play a little clip of this. And again, this is a 6-minute clip. I'm going to play about 2 minutes of it. This is John Stossel asking what the hell has happened to Europe that used to be the equal to the United States in terms of industrial output. Here we go. Well, hang on.
Business just abuses workers.
No fairness, no equity, no concern for safety, no concern for children even.
Other countries protect workers and their families.
We're one of the few industrial countries in the world that does not have paid leave.
Our quality of life is not up to the other countries, Europe is better.
So much better.
You want to be like Sweden? Kinda. Sounds pretty good.
If you're a worker, you don't want to live in Sweden.
Economist Sven Larsson lives in Kansas now, but he was born in Sweden where unemployment's now 10%.
What do you do if you get fired? There's no job out there for you.
Years ago, America's economy grew neck and neck with the European Union's. But about 15 years ago, Europe's growth stagnated. Today, America is 50% richer, even though the EU has 100 million more people.
Europe has experienced...
Now think about that. Europe has 100 million more people than the United States, yet our GDP, how much higher was our GDP? 50%. So with 100 million less people, our gross domestic product is 50% higher than theirs today.
Stagnant economic growth.
When we don't have growth, we can't make life better for people.
Europe's become kind of a wine and cheese museum. Tourist money keeps it going, but there's so little growth that the poorest U.S. state is now richer than most European countries.
Can you imagine that? The state of Mississippi has more income per person than virtually, by the median U.S. income in Mississippi is 53,000.
Yeah.
All these are like in Greece, it's 24,000. Italy, it's 40,000. France is 48,000. United Kingdom is 52,000. So can you imagine that the state of Mississippi has higher per capita income than most countries in Europe?
Yeah.
Why? Because of the very same policies some Americans now want us to copy, like higher taxes.
But what do you do when you run out of the rich? Then you tax the almost rich, and then you run out of them.
But in America, we now have absurdly rich people.
If you add up all the value that these individuals have, it's nowhere near enough to pay for all the obligations that the federal government has. The average workers in Sweden pay more in taxes than you do in the United States.
You get free healthcare, free education.
No, you get the right to free healthcare, but whether you actually get the healthcare or not is a different story. I have friends who have died in the Swedish healthcare system because they couldn't get treatment in time.
American activists don't talk much about that problem. Instead, on taxpayer-supported TV, they complain that
we and Papua New Guinea are the only countries in the world that do not provide any paid time off for new mothers. You get 16 weeks in the Netherlands, almost 70 weeks in Sweden.
You can have one kid, and then you're away for a year. And then if you have another kid, you just perpetuate your maternity leave, and you can be away for years.
Think about that. 70 weeks of
70
paid
weeks,
family leave if you have a kid. And then if you have a second kid during that 70 weeks, you get another 70 weeks.
Yeah.
So you can, if you have 3 kids, you don't have to come to work for 5 years and your employer is paying for it. Now, it's just incredible. And this guy is from Sweden, but is this a link you can include in the website?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Because it's fascinating to listen to the entire 6 minutes, and that's why Europe is falling behind. But can you imagine if 70 weeks of paid family leave?
Yeah.
And not just for the mother and the father.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a second kid, then you get another 70 weeks. So that's 140 weeks, which is 3 years. And another kid. So if you have 3 kids, you don't have to come to work for 5 years. Anyway, I know we're probably running short on time, right?
Yeah, we have about 5 minutes. A little less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to save Nick Freitas for next week. There was an experiment done about 20 years ago where a guy took 4 male mice and 4 female mice and put them in an ideal living environment, unlimited food, water, and what happened to them over time, and how they eventually how their own society basically destroyed itself just from overpopulation. And we'll talk about that. So I'm going to play. So we won't do that, but I'm going to play a real quick one from Ronald Reagan about how, and this goes back 45 years, and nothing has changed from 45 years ago. He's talking about how Democrats always attack Republicans when they try to do any sort of change. Here we go.
Time a Republican takes office, the Democrats start acting like it's the end of the world. I mean, the minute we cut taxes or trim the budget, they start screaming that the sky is falling. Now, don't get me wrong. I admire their consistency. If the stock market surges, they say it's just helping the rich. And if it crashes, they say, yep, that's what happens under Republican leadership. And don't even get me started on foreign policy. A Republican president could be shaking hands with world leaders and signing peace deals, and they'd say, it must be appeasement. But the minute there's tension overseas, they rush to the nearest camera like it's Black Friday saying, see, we told you the world would catch fire if he was in charge. Now, I've always said, it's fine to disagree on policy. That's democracy. But if your best shot at winning is hoping the American people lose, well, maybe you're in the wrong country.
What do you think that 45 years ago, has anything changed?
Nope, nothing's changed.
It's the same playbook, verbatim,
yep.
Word for word for word, verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so sad. All right. How much time we got for our taxpayer relief shot?
We have about 3 minutes.
All right, here we go. No intro. We're just going to go right to the taxpayer relief shot. All right, got to find it here. Got to get through the commercial.
I'm a lifelong
hang on.
Republican.
Hang on. We got to.
Never thought my family.
There we go. Skip the commercial.
We're nervous. We're nervous.
Neighbors in Skyway are still grappling with what happened on their block overnight.
He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been there.
Around 2 o'clock Monday morning, a woman called 911 saying she shot a man who was trying to get into her home. When deputies arrived, they found the man with a gunshot wound in the driveway. He was taken to the hospital where he died from his injuries.
A life is a life, and it hurts anytime a life is taken. But, I mean, if you are intruding in someone's personal space, then you have coming what is coming to you. So, I mean, I'm glad she was able to protect herself.
So what are the laws in the state when it comes to using force against an intruder? Use of force is lawful if someone is about to be injured or to prevent malicious trespass. Homicide is also justifiable when the intruder was going to commit a felony or do some great personal injury to someone.
She was well within her rights. Well within her rights. And I would do the same.
King 5 did see someone being handcuffed and put into a squad car at the scene. It's unclear if that was the woman who called 911.
I'm waiting to hear, like everyone else. I'll be tuned in, ready for the news. So I really do want to know what actually happened.
And this is still an ongoing investigation, and deputies say there is no danger to the public. Reporting in Skyway, Brady Wakayama, King 5 News.
So another thug winds up dead right there. Anything you want to add, Producer Susan, before we sign off? All right. Well, all right, make this quick. I want to thank everybody who listened to Podcast Day for giving up 30 minutes out of your time. Hope you found them interesting and important as I did. And if you want to continue to listen to podcasts in the weeks and months to come. Now, if you want to see some of the materials and listen to the rest of the story links that we didn't have time to play in its entirety, like the one about Europe, give producer Susan a day or two, and you can find those video links on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jerzee, J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E, Jerzee, jerzeejoe.com, no spaces. If you want to send me, and if you want me to send you one of those links directly, just send me an email to joe@jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and two E's. And with that, producer Susan, anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Talk to you next week, and maybe we'll get to the next free toss.
All right.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.